And I just said to my crew member, hurry up, get it into this showroom. And then 13 went on. On the 14th one, I heard, take me back home. And I ordered all of the tabletops to be returned. I did my research, and I found your number. Now the Divinity Tree is a round table. It is a table where both histories, those who said the tree wasn't going to last because of carpenter ants, that design is on one side of the tree, and also the large living rings that say it could have had another 100 years. That tree, that round table, is now in what is called a tree room. It's the only space at the Divinity School that is open 24 hours a day. It is where the difficult conversations are had. It's where people write their poems and read. So, a wound, a window. I think the last story that I would tell is my own wound, that when Brooke and I bought oil and gas leases and I lost my job, I received a call from Bell Hooks. It's still a wound. My heroine, my hero. I've read every one of her books as an educator. I can't think of anyone I would have rather had a conversation with. And she left a message about what we had done. And she said, I'm here for you. Please call me. I never called her. I never called her. Why? I was so broken. I was so intimidated. I couldn't believe that she even knew my name. I could barely believe that she understood what happened. And I couldn't comprehend that she wanted to have a conversation, one that I desperately needed. I never called her. And yet, in this moment, Harvard was having a roundtable with professors about her work. And I was able to enter into her work, and in a window opened, that's all I can tell you, that I felt I was able to be in conversation with her when I was ready. So the wound is the window. The window can be the wound. If we're present, we'll know what to do. That is always my prayer.
Thank you, of course, for that. I want to plumb a little bit around some of those ideas a little bit, Terry, because I think when I think about what we're up against as a species and for our planet, which I would distinguish the two, I think you write that the earth will go on. We are the ones being baptized by fire. That's a line from the book. And my reaction when I read the first part of the story of the Divinity Tree, as I relayed when we spoke yesterday by the phone, as an attorney, when they held the round tables and they talked and they had these listening sessions and they were still going to cut the tree, is let's sue them. Right? Let's stop this. Let's bring down the hammer. Don't, but throw the big tools at it. And yet, the story comes full circle, as you've described. And there is a certain kind of resurrection and a reckoning. And it gives me pause and makes me think, was there something, was there a necessity to? Was there a force beyond even what big tools should or could interfere with at play there? Was there a learning? I think one of the deans or administrators of the school says, ever since the Divinity Tree incident, it's part of the dialogue now at all times. What is personhood? What is deserving of personhood? The tree is, as you write in the book, the absence will be the presence. I wrestle with this idea, Terry, of how to engage with our climate crisis, how much to fight, how much, because we talk about this relationship that humans, though we have invented so many fixtures and facades to distinguish ourselves, both literally and figuratively, from the natural world, we are part and parcel. We are inextricably wound up. Even if we can spin around the backside of the moon and come home, we are still animals. It's something I teach my children with their questions every day. My son asks, are bears reptiles? What eats us? How does the food chain, these concepts that they're so curious about so early on, our appetites are also part of nature. Should we stop the divinity tree from being cut in the sense of what we may or may not be inflicting in the world? Is it our duty to mitigate? Where is the line between we ought to try and hold back as much as we can from the brink of devastation, but also you write in the book, I don't call it devastation anymore as to the flash floods, because that isn't true. Life immediately begins to rebound. I guess I'm asking, what is our right relationship to this crisis?
I don't know, but I think it's a fair question. The absence will be my presence. The part of the story I didn't tell you, for obvious reasons when I tell you, is I got locked out of what we called God's Motel, where Brooke and I were living. It's the Center for the Study of World Religions. I think it was 1:30 in the morning. It was March. It was cold. It was freezing. I got locked out. My phone wasn't working. There were no security guards, no friends. I was stuck. And I thought, well, it's 1:30 in the morning. The tree's going to be cut at 7. I'm going to sleep with the tree. So I went and slept with the red oak, and I had enough warm clothes, and I had a shawl. I wrapped it around its roots, and I slept with the tree. And I remember putting my hand on the trunk of the tree. And as a writer, I know my vocabulary. And what I heard in my heart was not mine. And what I heard was, I'm fine. My absence will be my presence. And that really has turned out to be true. What's the right behavior? We had to fight for that tree. I did. Our students did. I think the turning point was when they made that decision. Then what do? We grieve, we love, we celebrate, and we mourn, and we love again. Grief is love. What's the right relationship towards climate, endangered species, etc.? I'm going to tell a story I have not told publicly anywhere. And this will not make sense, but it's a circle. Will you go with me? I was invited to be the master of ceremonies at the 50th anniversary of the Endangered Species Act. And I know Thoreau said, beware of any enterprise that asks for new clothes, but I needed a dress. And in Castle Valley, Utah, there's not a lot of choices, So I was back in Cambridge, I was in New York. I thought, I'll just get a dress now. It's May. By September, when the gala, I'll be ready. And I thought, I'll just go to some thrift stores. There will be something there that will be interesting. I walked into one, nothing. I walked into another, nothing. I finally thought, third, I'll find something. I saw this, the light was dim. It was kind of crowded. But I saw this flash of red, and I thought that would be respectful to Republicans. And I held it up, and I saw an interesting flourish of turquoise, and I thought, that's kind of Southwestern. I can wear my cowboy boots and black pants, and I'm done. I take it to the clerk, and she starts to wrap it up. And she says, do you mind me asking what this is for? And I said, it's for this endangered species gala. And she goes, bold choice. And I said, red Republicans, it'll be fun. And as I was walking out, and she put it in a cover, zipped it up, and she said, own it. And I said, well, I think I do, and I left, put it in the closet, go home. The summer passes, come back, it's time. I grab the cover, on a hanger, garment bag, put it in my suitcase. I've got my Levi's on, a jacket, shirt, I leave. And the plane is late. It's that night. I'm getting nervous. We get there. I have 45 minutes. I take out the garment bag, unzip it, put it by the shower, thinking I'll just kind of steam it as I get ready. I cannot believe what I see. The dress is covered with golden erect penises. And I don't mean small. And I'm going to say something, please, this is not my nature. I come from a Mormon background. Also, dildos. And to make matters worse, marijuana leaves. It was a catastrophe. And I called my niece who works on the Hill, and I said, I just want to show you this dress and see what you think. Because I thought, maybe she won't notice. And I take my phone and do it on, what is it called? FaceTime. I hear her scream saying, are you at a porn shop? And I said, no, this is the dress I'm wearing to the Endangered Species Gala. And she goes, you cannot wear this. I'm calling a friend immediately. I said, Callie, I do not have time. And she goes, well, then wear what you have on. And I said, I can't. I look, like I'm out for a walk in the weeds, And she said, I'm calling immediately. And I said, I now have 35 minutes. This very, smart public policy person is about to pick me up. And she goes, I hope he's blind. Anyway, long story shorter, I called my stepmother. She's very reasonable. And I said, Jan, can I just show you this dress? She burst out laughing. And she said, is it a costume party, And I said, no, it's this gala. And she just said, own it. And I said, that's exactly what the woman at the dress shop said. Anyway, I had to just hope that it would be low lighting and no one would notice. I put the dress on. I go to meet this escort, and he doesn't even see it. And I think he's just talking about public policy and the Endangered Species Act and all of the, and I think, perfect, they won't notice. We go to the Library of Congress. I'm handed the people that I have to introduce and give an award to: Cory Booker, Grijalva, all these heavyweights, and I think, I just hope the lighting's low. I get there, all I can say is, the woman who said, do you want to do a sound check, said, are those what I think they are? And I thought, okay, I have no choice. I heard myself stand up. There's 900 people there, all these senators, all these representatives, and I say, I remember when Marty Murray, the grandmother of conservation, she said, we are spirited, as conservationists, we are spirited people. These are difficult times. We will rise to the occasion. And all I can tell you is that the weather system in the room changed. It became completely celebratory in the darkest of times. And when Cory Booker came up to receive his award, he looked at me and goes, I love you people, and twirled me around. And the final straw, and I say this with utmost respect, the Secretary of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the director, Martha Williams, who's known for dotting the I's, she's very serious, an incredible woman. I have such respect for her. She gave a cheerleading chant saying, give me an E, give me an S. The whole thing went mad. It was so perfect. And I think that is appropriate behavior in dark times. My heart is pounding, and I will tell you this. Brooke said, Terry, you've been known to exaggerate. In this instance, when he saw the dress, you undersold it. So I'm sorry. I should never have done that.
This is a very Port Townsend story. I think it's time to invite Terry to kinetic sculpture race, any town event, really. This outfit would pass muster. But when I was in the middle of the book, returning from my commute to Seattle, which I do intermittently, and I was in this essay as I left the ferry, and I had to sit in my driver's seat of my car, and I was just cackling. And I think people walked by as I was trying to head out, and they just looked, what is that woman doing? What is she reading? And it's Terry Tempest Williams. You don't usually find someone busting up laughing in the front seat of their car, except that you do, for the same reason that Terry's pointing out, that we chatted about this yesterday. Humor, levity, seriousness, how serious are we? And can we let go when the moment is right? When it's, because both are cathartic, right? I remember Story Clark, when I was a graduate student in Terry's program in Utah, who's a remarkable conservationist, speaking of land trusts. I took a course from her, and she talked about, this power to reach people. For some, it's laughter. She talked about, Terry's power to really reach in, and the power of tears. But to see someone who has your essence, your depth of feeling, also be able to step into that ultimate, the levity of wearing dildos to a 50th anniversary ESA gala, may we all own it when it's time to be in that space, and maybe
by accident.
Even better, right? I think it's a Glorian. I mean, that is a lesson of the book. Yeah, I can tell you'll all read it, and I think that there are no accidents. You write that. There are only Glorians. Do you want to maybe speak to that a little bit, this idea there are no accidents? I mean, you mentioned when you and Brooke had that courageous act of purchasing for the first time in, as far as I know, American legal history, purchasing oil and gas leases legally from the BLM with the intent to conserve them and not develop them. And that cost you, as you've said. It cost you very deeply. I was extremely lucky to be among the last cohorts that worked with Terry at Utah. And did that feel like an accident? How do you think about that now, and with retrospect of 2020?
It felt like being evicted from one's tribe. It was painful. It was painful. I think the most painful thing was that, Brooke and I didn't plan on it. It was, again, being present. And, I went in the shorter line, and I ended up in the bidding arena with the oil and gas executives, and I heard the language. It was misogynist. It was racist. It was cruel. And I knew those lands by name. And I also knew that if we waited, because I thought if I start bidding like Tim had done as an act of civil disobedience, that had been done. And I also knew that they would say that we had disrupted those who could buy them. And I thought if we wait, then we can do it's called a remnant sale for $1.50 an acre. That's what leases cost in that arena. And when I found Brooke, he had the same feelings. And so we just thought, how are we going to feel if we don't do it? How are we going to feel if we do? And again, if we're present, we'll know what to do. We did buy those leases. The consequences weren't just with the University of Utah. It was with my own family. My family is in the oil and gas business. And not the oil, but in the digging the trenches, the pipelines. And my father asked us to leave at dawn. He said, I want you out of the house. You've made a mockery of our family business. I am ashamed. And he said, I want you out before sunrise. He's a very Western man. And we were out by sunrise. And the surprise was he was standing at the door of our car in front of it, leaning against it. And he said, I will stand with you because I know these expletive and they will kill you. And those were the moments that were the most difficult but the most powerful. And the leases were denied by the BLM. Again, I have not told this publicly, but it feels like home. I received a call from the BLM saying, if you promise not to write any more about these leases, we will give you them. And it was the same thing with the university. If you sign a non-disclosure, you will have lifetime health care, and we know you and Brooke have health issues. And it was the same response: you do not own my story. That's what we're up against. And I knew at least we had our story. And we sued the federal government, we sued the Department of Interior, the Board of Land Appeals. 6 years they sat on that. And this was in the Obama administration, and it was in the Biden administration when they denied them still. But there are brave people, and Tracy Stone Manning, who was running BLM under the Biden administration, created a land rule where other people besides oil and gas executives could purchase land leases, conservationists. That's not the answer, but it's moving the 1920 Minerals Leasing Act forward. So that's what it felt like. But the other side of it is I spent a year really looking at what I had done personally, that you can't write about misogyny in the Mormon church or land in a state that wants to sell public lands and not make real enemies. I didn't know that because I know how my family feels. You know, we work it out. We may have differing opinions, but I read all those letters to the editor. It was very public and it was very painful. And I had to own that too. And again, this is more personal, and then we can open it up perhaps to questions. But I will tell you this. I remember it was November 2016, that supermoon. And where we live, the moon shines in our bedroom. And the moon literally was a spotlight at this moment. And I heard in my heart, get up. And I thought, it's too cold. I'm comfortable. I don't want to wake up Brooke. You know, but I know those prompts. And I did get up, and I dressed warmly. I went outside. The moon was right over our house. And it's the first time where I released a lament for what I did. I was, you know, it was just that humble moment between you and the cosmos. And the moon for me has always been the illumined face of my mother. When she died, I was with her, our family was. I wondered where she went. And when I saw the moon, I thought, that is her face. And I really poured my heart out, and I heard in my heart, what do you want? And no one had ever asked me that. And what I said was, I want a more spiritual life. And then I felt this, you know, I think Maslow calls it a peak experience, and I didn't trust it, and I thought, will you just give me a sign, anything, an owl, a coyote, a rooster? And I realized it was dawn. I'd been out there for hours, and I had to just laugh. You know, and what do I do when I have questions? I do research, and I found out everything I could possibly find out about roosters. And a month later, I received a call from the Divinity School saying, we've been watching what you've been doing. Our students are asking questions about climate as a spiritual calling to work on climate issues as spiritual issues. Would you come for a year? And I said yes. Would I have rather stayed at Utah? I would have. It was an exile that turned out to be my own spiritual evolution. So would I have wanted that? No. Window, wound, wound, window. But my soul had other plans. Let's open it up for questions.
I'll probably do 2, maybe 3 questions. Folks have them. Yeah, how about right here?
I have. I had a really weird
The question was if Terry's had any good dreams recently. I'll try to repeat.
Yeah, do I dare share them? I don't think I do, this one. So, but yes, you know, my grandmother, I ask my psyche always a question, and it usually comes forward in a dream or morning mind. But I had a dream in Seattle 2 nights ago about an octopus that was playing tricks on me. So whatever that means, but I was grateful. I have it on my phone. But I'm really excited. I'm going to go to the Harvard graduation and I'm going to wear it. So. There's a question here.
Can I share something with you after?
Yes, yes.
I wrote a thing.
Yes, let's meet after.
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you. Other questions?
So I got to hear the story of the divinity tree last year, and I think I told you that night I had a dream that I was crushed by a tree. Actually wrote you a poem stuck in your purse. I don't know if you ever saw it, but anyway.
I did.
But the question about that is, and I think what I've been reckoning with since I came into the environmental consciousness as a girl was this difficulty reconciling my humanity with the sense that humanity is the source of the great wounds, and so trying to sort of figure out the right relationship to humanity. You kind of pointed at this, Anna. You know, is it about sort of a kind of erasure or denial of the humanity, or a claiming of humanity in a different way than we've been able to understand, many of us, in a certain cultural lineage. So I guess just speaking to the what needs to be, what needs to die? What needs to die in order for us to live better?
I think that's the question. I don't know. I can tell you a quick story. When we had those 5 flash floods in a matter of weeks, the last flash flood, where you smell it before you hear it before you see it, and when that wall of water comes racing toward you, you feel as though you're staring into the face of God and it is not human. After that last flood, which transformed our community, it was within 30 feet of our house. Brooke was gone. It was, when Rilke talks about beauty is the beginning of terror, in the desert in that moment it felt like terror is the beginning of beauty. I could not look away. It was so compelling. But the next morning I walked the path of water, and we've lived there 30 years. And it was a green I've never seen in prickly pear. Signatures on the sand of coyote, badger, great blue herons, lizards. And as I was walking back home, I thought, I don't remember that shadow on the berm that was now gone. Suddenly I just kept walking, and I was inside the shadow. I walked through the shadow, and here was a newly formed canyon, 30 feet long, 10 feet high, 12 feet wide. And I was sitting with my back against this newly exposed earth. And then I thought I had floaters. You know what I'm talking about, where you see those black shadows on the retina or whatever. And I thought my retina's detaching, you know. And I stood up, and it was like black glitter floating. They weren't floaters. And I looked around, and what I didn't realize is that on the cross-section of the wall that was newly exposed, it was an ant colony from the top down. And they were throwing out their dead. And as they were throwing out the dead, they were sealing the walls of their community. And on the other side, when I looked on the other side, darkling beetles were popping out, what we called as kids stink bugs. And they were landing on their back, they were turning themselves over and kind of stabilizing themselves, and they went directly for the carcasses of the ants. And then they were walking out of that canyon, and there were the ravens. dining on the Beatles. It was this tropic exchange, cascade, that I think holds something for us about attachment, detachment, facing the what is, and again, something deeper than hope, which for me is engagement, doing the work that is ours. Okay. I want to close, and first, Anna, thank you. Tough questions. You know you have a great partner when we can laugh and cry and plumb the depths together. Thank you. It was extraordinary. I just want to close with a very simple story. It's probably 2 or 3 minutes. And thank you for sharing this day with us. Thank you for bringing out the secrets. And thank you, John and Garrett, for this beautiful afternoon, and Amy, and everyone here for taking this time to share. I'm making a decision that I wasn't planning on making. I'm just going to read the last 5 paragraphs of the book. I am seeking a new language to help me name what I cannot define, like the Glorians, and all that is ineffable driven by the beauty of Earth herself. But it is also true that in the act of naming, we are drawn closer to the edges of the unnameable, where all we feel and cannot articulate is reflected back to us in a state of loveliness. The burden I carry is knowing I will always fall short in the conveyance of beauty. And with time, I am less afraid of failing as an individual and more terrified of failing as one of 8 billion human beings witnessing the mounting sorrows spanning the globe as we watch our planet burn. If we refuse to see what is coming, expedited by our unwillingness to make the necessary changes, to not just survive but flourish, then we are the creators of our own demise. Change is upon us, and change is within us. Whatever future may be collapsing before our eyes, we can dream a new world into being. We can protect what is vulnerable and restore and rebuild what remains with love for those who will follow us. In my dream, I was standing in the ruins of Cassandra's Tower. In my life, I was standing in the Red Rock Desert of Utah and working as writer-in-residence at the Harvard Divinity School. In the vitality of the struggle, I found myself required to walk through shadows. And when I did, I saw we have to throw out what is dead in order to make room for what is alive. By reimagining home, we create a place and a peace for all we stand to gain, a livable future in a landscape of burning hearts that implores us to stay soft when things become hard and stay strong when things fall apart. May we pray for the strength to embody change and to be explicit in what we love, where we wish to serve, and what we want to protect. The poet Jack Mueller writes, "What I can't change changes me." The Glorians are reaching out to us, inviting us to engage. They arrive unplanned, unearned, irrefutable. They are grace. We are dreamers, and I believe Earth is dreaming us into a new way of being. With Venus shining in the twilight of dawn as my witness, something deeper than hope is emerging. The coyote willow's magenta blossoms have just burst forth for the first time this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you both for that conversation, that presentation. That was truly a gift to all of us present tonight. I also just want to thank you all for being here and being a part of this moment. I feel like this is a very special coming together for our community. And I just want to I want to thank Amy for opening our hearts to this moment. I want to thank Richard and Rick from the Land Trust for their partnership and supporting this evening. I want to thank Lonnie for grounding us in the spirit of this place. If you'd like to take home another copy of the Glorians or any of Terry's other books, we do have some limited copies, signed copies outside. As soon as I get out there, I can sell those to you. Don't wait too long because they're not going to last long. But just really thank you all for being a part of this community. I actually want to personally thank my husband, Garrett. You all see a lot of me downtown. What a lot of people don't see is he is the scaffolding of my life. It makes it so I can do things like this with you all. So thank you, Garrett. And thank you, Port Townsend. What a special place we have here. So safe travels, everybody. Drive safely tonight. And just good night. Thank you.